Hi, and welcome to Practical Ideas for Growth. I'm Sarah Dobek, and today I'm joined by our team member, Brian Falony. Welcome, Brian.
Hi, glad to be here, Sarah.
Thanks. We are always talking about succession planning for partners, but what about your marketing team? And more importantly, your overall growth strategy that includes marketing and business development efforts. When a marketing director leaves for greener pasture, retires, or has to take a temporary leave to, for whatever reason, the new director may take things or the new person may take things in a completely new direction. The same thing can happen on a smaller scale when other marketing team members move on or new professionals come in. And while new ideas and approaches are always really good, having a well-documented plan that can be handed off is really important to your strategy and being consistent for your long-term growth. And so Brian's joined us. I know this is a really big passion topic for you. So thank you. Welcome for joining us. We're excited to talk about this with you.
Yeah.
Right. So, first off, you recently went through a transition of your own at your prior
Mhm.
firm
Yep.
before joining Inovautus. Walk us through how you sort of set that firm up for success and talk to us a little bit about this topic and how you think about it.
Well, when I joined Brady Ware, I knew it was going to not be a long-term, long-term being 10 years, 20 years. So we knew going into it that I was approaching retirement age. So about a year out from my retirement, I retired in May of 2021. About a year ahead of that time, I sat down with the managing partner and said, we've got about a year. Let's think through how we're going to make this transition. And I was very fortunate that we had a good marketing plan in place. I had spent the time working with the different divisions of the firm, and so I had good partner buy-in for the marketing plan, and everything was working really well. So when we started thinking about it, we said, "Oh, when do we want to start looking for a replacement?" We spent time talking about what qualities that replacement needed to have, what kind of person we were looking for. We actually engaged another consultant to help us spec out what the job would look like. I had a lot of input on that based on what I knew about the firm, what changes I had made at the firm. And so we put together a really good package that defined what we were looking for. Um, we started the search right after the first of the year in 2021. And we got a lot of resumes, but we interviewed five people. And I was part of those interviews. And one of the things I talked to the person about was their philosophy on marketing. And we talked through the marketing plan, and we talked through the importance of continuity. That was a big thing that we were looking at. We did not want somebody that was going to come in and just throw everything away and start fresh. So we selected somebody that looked at our marketing plan and said, "You're doing some good things here. I would like to make some changes here." And we were comfortable with all of that. So we brought that person on in mid March of 2021, and I worked with him for about 6 weeks to make a good, smooth transition.
That's great.
Yeah, we had him. He started sitting in marketing meetings, and for the first 2 or 3 weeks, I was still the marketing director, and by week 4, he was the marketing director, and I was there for resource only, and so it was a really nice, smooth transition.
That's great. And that's so important. We don't often give ourselves enough time to make that transition. And we don't always get that luxury, right? We've watched professionals come and go in their positions, and sometimes there's time. And if we can get 4 weeks, man, that's awesome. Most of the time, though, we're maybe lucky if we get 2 weeks,
Yeah.
unfortunately. And so that is a tough transition, for some folks. So the idea of having this long term strategy, and I think that's important because like we're marketers, we're consulting agency, and we like ideas, right? But strategy is a long-term game at the end of the
Mhm.
day. Being consistent with that strategy is so important. What are some of the best ways you found, Brian, to document and communicate that consistent strategy, and establish some of the relevant and relatable roles and responsibilities to that?
Well, I think the documentation is important, and we went through the process of drafting a written marketing plan that had overall strategies, it had overall goals, but then it was pretty well detailed in terms of the tactics for each of the different offices and each of the different practice areas. But I think even if you have something like that, it can still, when something changes, when a marketing director changes, that can go out the door if it is strictly marketing's plan. We
Hmm.
also took the time to work with every one of our practice groups in each of our offices to make sure that the partners that were running that practice group or office also bought into the plan and were comfortable with it and felt that it was something that they really needed to accomplish, that it was going to get them where they wanted to go. And I think having that partner buy-in is absolutely critical, because if you don't, then it's something that the marketing department owns, and the firm is okay if you go ahead and do it. But when somebody new comes in, it can all go away and we can go in a completely different direction. In this case, I had partners that were on board with it and were working very hard to implement it. And so it was very easy for the transition to come in, and for my successor to make some tweaks, but overall keep things going in the same direction and make sure that the investment that we had made in putting the plan together and executing the plan actually bore some fruit.
Yeah, I love it. And it's not just the partners that need to own it, but it's the people participating
Mhm.
in the external facing activities, right? And we run into this a lot in our work where um sometimes we're over ambitious in what we commit to, right? And so maybe we say, oh, we're going to do 12 blog posts this year, and we really only get 6 done, right?
Yeah,
So but understanding the purpose and buying into, right, why are we doing content development? How does this fit into the bigger picture? As opposed to just doing it to do it. And what is it that we're trying to communicate through some of that? I love it. And I think that's so important to the concept of ownership around marketing. And I think sometimes we get into a habit of thinking we've got marketing, they'll make it pretty or they'll take care of that. And while marketing can drive a lot, and if they're serving their firms well, really see their firms as their clients and try to take on as much as they can. But that doesn't mean that we don't own the responsibility to participate in that direction and that collaboration, because that's really where the power comes in, right? There's only so
absolutely.
far marketing can take without that perspective and input.
And yeah, and especially if your firm is big on content creation, like we had two very special podcasts that we did, and the partners owned those podcasts. I mean, we supported them and we put them on, but they were their podcasts, and
Mhm.
brought a lot of leads and a lot of recognition to the firm for those podcasts. So, having partners on board, having partners buy in, having partners own the marketing plan is very, very important.
So, Brian, I know you talked about your transition over 6 weeks, but if we take a look at a bigger picture, right? What are some of the major milestones or rocks to ensure continuity and sustainability within your department year over year or person to person?
Person to person, with let's take within the department first. And I had three people. Um, and interestingly enough, since Brady Ware was a regional firm with offices mainly in Ohio, but we had an office in Atlanta, I worked out of the Atlanta office, but I had a person in our Dayton, Ohio office and a person in our Columbus, Ohio office. So, and I didn't realize it at the time, but this was so important. Those two individuals were really seen as the face of marketing in those offices. So, although I was the marketing director, those two people had a lot of direct interface with the partners and the staff up in those two offices. They got very well known. They felt very comfortable in interacting with the staff up there. So I think it's really important, even if you're a one office firm, if you have a marketing staff that's just more than the marketing director or marketing manager, I think it's really important that the director of marketing takes the time to make sure that the entire staff has that kind of interaction. That can definitely help bridge any times where the marketing director may be out ill or something like that, if they have that kind of relationship. I think the second thing, you were talking about rocks, but the second thing is the marketing staff really needs to buy into and support the marketing plan and understand what their roles are in it. But the marketing director, I think, has a responsibility to work with them to prepare them for any interruptions in continuity of staffing. You've got to take the time to explain not just what they need to do day to day, but why are they doing it? How does that fit into the overall marketing plan? And that's where it helps to have that nice documented marketing plan that is not just a 1 year plan, but it's a 3 to 5 year plan looking out, and suddenly you can help your staff understand where we're going, what their role is in it, and then you can identify if they need to gain some additional skills. What skills are those, and how can we best get them up to speed so that they can take over more responsibility? I thought it was extremely nice that I had one woman that worked for me out of our Dayton office, and if I was out on vacation or something, she could run the whole department. Um, and I think it's important that the marketing director takes the time to make that happen. It's not just the marketing director's show. It's the marketing department show, and it's there to make the firm better.
Yeah, absolutely. I couldn't agree more. And as we are seeing more and more marketing teams expand quite a bit and add talent, I think this concept of how do we really build a department is important. And that's what a lot, not just the strategy piece, right? That is such a critical piece to the firm, but there's this element in here that's also scalability of the department, the ability to truly serve as a team. And a lot, until you get to a certain size in this profession, you're often not faced with that challenge.
Yeah.
But I think more and more firms at smaller sizes are now going to be dealing with what does that look like, and how do we handle that, and how do we equip our people to kind of work cross-functionally
Mm-hmm.
just a little bit when it's necessary, so that we continue to be that engine for them.
Yeah, we were not a huge firm. We were a 20 or low $20 million firm, but we had a staff of three, and I think it was really important to have those people in there.
Yeah. So a lot of departments are a team of one, right?
Mhm. Yep.
And there are a lot of firms that are just investing into marketing, or maybe don't have much need yet for more than one person. But what do you say to those firms that have sort of a solo marketer? How do we maintain continuity, right? In that, when we can't cross chain, when we don't have other department members that can remember, we maybe can't afford or are not in the luxury of the position of a 6 week transition, right? What does that look like for our firms that are sitting in that world over there?
I think for a firm like that, I think it's really important that one of the partners, either the managing partner or another partner that has been designated, um, owns marketing and works with the marketing director. I think that is absolutely critical, that somebody that is going to have longevity with the firm needs to be a part of that marketing strategy, needs to be part of the implementation, the development, and needs to work with that marketing person on a day-to-day basis to make sure that they understand everything that's going on. Because it could be someday there's an accident and the marketing director is out for a long time or may never come back. And you've got to have somebody that is there that understands what's going on and can step into that role. And I think firms need to make plans for that. I think when a firm hires a marketing director, particularly if it is a sole person, a department of one, like you were mentioning, I think it's critical that the partners sit down and say, what is our plan if that person is not here? What if
Mhm.
what if an emergency comes up? What are we going to do? And I think they've got to think that through, and they've got to put the procedures in place to address that issue and have somebody ready to step in when that happens, if it indeed does happen.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. We're big too, right, on documenting processes when we work with our clients. We do it when we do it here internally. And processes don't solve everything, but it answers some of like the basic questions like,
It does.
how do I get into the back end of our website? Who
Mhm.
has the login information? Some of the very critical measures, but I can't stress the importance enough of that. We've been in several situations where we've supported clients. We might have, our big saying around here is like part of our sign of success is we work ourselves out of a position, right? We want to empower our firms. And we've been in a couple situations where we thought we were almost there, right? They were going to be off and running, and then something
Mhm.
happened, an
Yep.
illness, an unexpected, turnover, something happened, and we were pulled right back in, and to add that level of continuity, make those transitions a little bit easier and help support that you know, um, continuation of the firm strategy that they were going down. So
Mhm.
I do think it's important. It is really hard for solo firms, but I think some of the ideas you shared are good. And a partner in charge of growth or marketing, right, in their firm could absolutely be part of some of that knowledge base that
Yeah,
can
and
stay
that
consistent.
gives you the buy-in that I was talking about earlier.
Absolutely, absolutely. So in our final minute, as you think about this topic, is there any final thoughts, Brian, that you want to leave with our viewers on this topic? Any final tips or advice or things that you've learned?
Yeah, I think it's going to be reiterating some of the things I've said before, but we talk about having plans for this and having plans for that. You got to have a plan for transition, no matter what staff you're talking about, because the things are changing. I mean, we're seeing the great resignation these days, and people are walking out of accounting firms left and right. What's the plan for handling that? I don't think handling a marketing transition is any different than handling any of the other staff transitions that you have to make. But you have to put the time in to think about it and document what you're going to do when that happens, because it will.
Absolutely. Well, Brian, thank you so much for joining us and talking about this topic and sharing your experiences here. We appreciate it.
It's been fun. Thanks, Sarah.
All right.